Kent E. Nielsen here, and I'm delighted to have you with me. Christ came into the world to do the will of his Father, and he prepared a way for you to do likewise. Join me to put him first in your life, receive the fruits of godliness, and realize your divine mission to be like him. You were born and commanded to do greater works than he did. Now let's go to work. This past weekend, my wife and I went to a movie. We haven't been to a theater for some time. I got off work about an hour early, came home and pondered what to do. And I thought, wow, we haven't been to a movie for a while. What is playing? I came across a movie called His Only Son and was immediately interested as I noticed it was produced by Angel Studios, production company that produced the TV series The Chosen. I've enjoyed those seasons and episodes, and the depiction that they've given of Jesus Christ. Though not perfect, I found them very edifying. Nevertheless, this movie, I decided to jump in the car with my wonderful wife, and we drove promptly to catch the showing of it. And I was blown away, frankly. It's called His Only Son again, and it's the story of Abraham. It's not the story of Abraham from the Pearl of Great Price as we understand it as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but it did depict him as found in the Bible, the book of Genesis. And I found it very insightful. And above all, I think if I were to describe it in one word, it was very pensive. There wasn't a lot of dialogue in it, and in between the dialogue, there was visual, if not effects, like a action movie, so to speak, but visual assistance through the layout of the canvas of the movie, and I found it to be very edifying. So let's go back to my notes here. How did I come across it? I mentioned that, and my favorite part. Oh, by far my most favorite part, and it begins with this, and it's not the only event of this happening, is the presence of the Lord enactment, his voice in particular. I loved as it portrays the Lord in the flesh visiting Abraham. And when he spoke, he spoke with power and authority, and the whole theaters, so to speak, reverberated, and it gave me thoughts and remembrances of Book of Mormon effect when an angel appeared to Alma, for instance, and the whole earth shook. By the way, a little side note, I lost my voice a little bit over the weekend. I feel fine and dandy, but maybe my voice is just simply changing and maturating. I'm grateful to be able to use it so much with the podcast. But this significance back to the voice was very powerful, and this reminds me of a teaching from from the lectures on faith that recently in 2000, well, it's been a while, April 2007 General Conference, Elder Holland said the following from the lectures on faith, and it's drawn from lecture 7 verse 3, and I'll read this quote here from Elder Holland. The prophet Joseph Smith deepened our understanding of the power of speech when he taught, quote, "It is by words that every being works when he works by faith. God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. Joshua spake, and the great lights which God had created stood still. Elijah commanded, and the heavens were stayed for the space of 3 years and 6 months, so that it did not rain. And all this was done by faith. Faith then works by words, and with words its mightiest works have been and will be performed. Lecture 7, verse 3. Uh, End quote of Elder Holland quoting lectures on faith. Elder Holland continues, like all gifts, quote, which come from above, end quote, words are, quote, sacred and most must be spoken with care and by constraint of the spirit, end quote. And that's from Doctrine and Covenants, section 63, verse 64, that he quotes there. And this last part reminded me of the power of our words and the significance found in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 88. And I'm going to dive into section 88 and then come back to this reference from Elder Holland. So in section 88, 62 through 65, it says the following. And again, verily I say unto you, my friends, I leave these sayings with you to ponder in your hearts. So he's talking about parables of the kingdom of heaven. With this commandment which I give unto you, that ye shall call upon me while I am near. My friends, my brothers and sisters, those that are partaking and listening in this message, he is near you always. You must simply turn to him and he will hear you. When you rebel against him, you are taken from his presence. Yet when you simply turn to him, he's at the door knocking, waiting for you to open and let him in. And continuing with verse 63, draw near unto me, and I will draw near unto you. Seek me diligently, and ye shall find me. Ask, and ye shall receive. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. So when we draw near to him, we get deeper questions and deeper understanding, that we move from the milk to the meat, and is speaking symbolically or figuratively, I should say. And this moving of from the milk to the meat requires action. It's one thing to read deeper doctrine, it's quite another to live it. And the only way to know if the doctrine is of God or of man is to live it and experience the fruits thereof. And the connection back to this in the next couple verses is the significance of our words. So he references Doctrine and Covenants 63, 64, that our words are sacred and must be spoken with care and by constraint of the Spirit. Why? Because in verse 64, whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, it shall be given unto you, that is expedient for you. If it's expedient for you. And that begs the question, how do you know what's expedient for you? And that's really significant when you read the next verse, verse 65. And if ye ask anything that is not expedient for you, it shall turn to your condemnation. So if it's going to condemn you, then you probably want to know how to get what's expedient so that you can ask for that and speak that which is edifying, that which builds and lifts your fellow man. You hear the pages turning in my scriptures. I want an additional reference here. So, how do you know what's expedient to ask for? In Doctrine and Covenants, section 18, verse 18, it says, Ask the Father in my name in faith, believing that ye shall receive, and ye shall have the Holy Ghost, which manifesteth all things which are expedient unto the children of men. So if our words are going back to lecture 7, verse 3, if our words are the means by which the mightiest works have been and will be performed, ought not we take thought before what we say? Ought not our minds be consumed, not consumed, but garnished with virtuous thoughts? Ought not we use our words appropriately? And I testify to you that as James taught in chapter 3 of the New Testament, that our words can be poison or they can lift and inspire. And he that offendeth not in word is a perfect man. And I love that, the imagery of that's portrayed in that chapter as well, such as a bride. I grew up on a little horse ranch when I was younger, and a small little bridle, like a 4 or 5 inch piece of metal in a horse's mouth, controls a 400-pound horse. And likewise, our tongue can help us to control our body. Because when we can control our tongue, we can control our body. And preceding the controlling of our tongue is the controlling of our thoughts. And we have been asked to put Christ first. He is the mark, as we've mentioned, as this podcast is called. And when you put him first, when you remember him always, you are promised to have his spirit, his thoughts to garnish, his virtuous thoughts to garnish you based off of the work you've put in prior to that. For example, in Doctrine and Covenants, section 11, verse 21, it tells you to seek not to declare my word, but first to obtain it. Then, if you desire, your tongue shall be loosed. Then you shall have the power of God, delivering it to the convincing of men. I paraphrase a little. The point being that our words are sacred and must be spoken with care and by constraint of the Spirit. Because our words is how faith works. Quoting lecture 7:3 again, faith then works by words. And with words, its mightiest works have been and will be performed. And one more note on the performance and the significance of utilizing our words is found in 2nd Nephi chapter 32, verse 9. And it says, behold, I say unto you that ye must pray always. In other words, have an eye single to the glory of God and not faint, that you must not perform anything unto the Lord, save in the first place, ye shall pray unto the Father in the name of Christ, that he will consecrate thy performance unto thee, that thy performance may be for the welfare of thy soul. The significance of this is when our thoughts are aligned with God's and we remember Christ always, we make him the mark in our life, we are granted access because of our obedience to greater blessings, to think his ways and to know his ways and to think his thoughts, his higher thoughts. And so on that note, as I was watching this movie coming full circle, this movie was very pensive. There was very little dialogue, and the dialogue that was there was quite powerful. and the imagery was quite powerful. And the overall word that stood out to me is that it was pensive. I was pondering the whole way through, and it changed my life. Um, that movie was an instrument in changing my life and helping me draw closer to my children. It's only been 3 days, but I feel even closer. But prior to that, seeing that movie, I was prepared to receive that knowledge. Um, for example, his his Abraham's earnest yearning to have a child of his own, and then when he gets one, the joy that he has, and the turmoil and the trials that he had prior to having that he went through to prepare him to receive that child. And here I am with 6 children, 3 girls and 3 boys, and I, it took me 29 years to get married, and 2 years before we had our first child, and now to almost 20 years later, we have 6. It's nothing pales in comparison to the trials that Abraham went through to have children. I've been deeply blessed in it. But as I watched that movie and was pondering and brewing over it, the significance of loving our children and passing on truth to your children was impactful. And for example, him being the father of many nations was super powerful. So I love that you can see 1,000 words in the scenery, and the emotions of Abraham's journey were quite powerful. I would have loved to see some references from the Pearl of Great Price information. Super powerful book. For those that haven't read it, I invite you to check out the Pearl of Great Price. It's super, super awesome. Yeah, the least favorite part of the movie was the depiction of Sarah's badgering, pestering, and negativity. And yet, she recovered well in the end. And I'm sure they do that to have some juxtaposition and some um, apposition as well to help understand and make the point that much better. So, key takeaways were the Lord visits his people. He he will manifest himself unto his people. And we've been in charged in Doctrine and Covenants, section 93, verse 1, to seek his face. And it teaches us 5 things to do to seek his face. I invite you to check that out, see what those are. And secondly, that I have gratitude and a greater depth of understanding of joy in my posterity, for those children that are in my home. And then the third and final point I'd like to make is there's power in simplicity. It was a very simple movie. And one of the lines that the director at the beginning of the movie said is the typical Hollywood production has about a $55 million budget, and he had a shoestring budget of 250,000. And the movie, he said, is a portrayal of what God can do with small means, which is a Book of Mormon teaching that by small and simple things are great things brought to pass. I testify to you that Jesus is the Christ, and when you turn your life over to him, he will make more of your life than you can on your own. There is great simplicity in remembering him always. It's very challenging for the natural man in particular, is when you yield to the enticings of the Holy Spirit by simply remembering Christ, the natural man gets the boot, and it's death to the natural man, and he doesn't like that. I invite you to see the movie His Only Son, produced by Angel Studios. If you go to your smart device, a phone or iPad, etc., there is an app called an Angel app, not Angel Studios app. Excuse me, and you can watch that movie for free there. So, anyway, thank you for joining me. I highly recommend this movie, and I hope you have a beautiful night.
Thank you for joining me for a brief mental workout. Wise men do their mightiest works with their mental exertions. I encourage you to take time to ponder on the weightier matters of life and to govern your body with pure mental exertions, rather than having your body tell you what to do. You are welcome to connect with me further at my link in bio, where you can access my book, my social handles, my latest creative updates, and even request coaching services via email. I have been given much and am here to serve. Thank you, and God bless you to be fruitful in doing your mightiest works. Good day.